Now live from the heart of Edinburgh with the latest news here in the East. It's Juliet Dunlop.
The biggest Edinburgh derby in history. In less than 24 hours' time, we'll know the winners of this year's Scottish Cup. Nervous but excited, we joined both sets of fans on the eve of the first Hibs Hearts Cup final for over a century.
We're live from Hampden. We'll hear from both managers later and one former player whose loyalties are divided.
If Hibs do win the cup, all that people have spoke about is the history of it. So, but we can't change what's gone on previously, but we can change it, come Saturday.
Hopefully, Saturday night, I'm going to touch that cup and I'm going to sleep with her.
And a monumental job. Tributes are unveiled to Forth Bridge workers to mark the end of its restoration. Hello, good evening. This is your STV News at 6, live from Edinburgh. This time tomorrow, Hearts or Hibs will return to the capital with their hands on the Scottish Cup. The Tynecastle side are the favourites to win the first all-Edinburgh final since 1896. But Hibs are determined to end their 110-year wait for the trophy. Tens of thousands of fans will make their way to Hampden tomorrow, hoping they'll be the ones celebrating come the final whistle. Well, to hear some of them in a moment. But first, here's David Marsland, who's been soaking up the pre-match atmosphere in the capital.
Edinburgh loves its history and its football, and right now this city is on the eve of marking both in a cup final clash that hasn't been seen for 116 years. These are the Hibs and Hearts teams of 1896, the last and only time they've ever met for the Scottish Cup trophy. That was held at Logie Park in Edinburgh. Hearts won. This time they're on the road to Hampden, and history is yet to be written. And the fans they're taking with them are going kitted up for a great day out. Stores across the city have been virtually cleaned out of shirts, scarves and t-shirts.
It is at a desperate stage. People are not quite thinking ahead as to exactly what they're going to be wearing, whether they're going to Hampden or whether they're actually going to be watching at home or in the pub, and they need to have something to show their support for the team. So we're getting calls from all over Scotland at the moment, and we've even had people that are travelling from Europe that have been on the phone to book stuff.
They're coming from further afield than that. Supporters heading to Hampden from all over the world have been uploading their details to STV's online fan tracker, showing just how international the appeal of this game has become. Police are preparing for huge numbers travelling to Glasgow. Alcohol is banned on trains. But tomorrow's game is being billed as a family day out, and those going from both sides are looking forward to it, albeit with some anxiety.
Well, it is like Christmas Eve because you really want to know what's coming tomorrow. But the big question is, of course, is Santa actually going to come? Because he might, but then again, he might not. And we Hibbies could be the little boy that Santa Claus forgot, or alternatively, it could be Merry Christmas, everybody.
Nervous. This is absolutely tremendous. I mean, this is something that nobody alive on the planet has ever seen, and that's a Hibs Hearts Cup final. Anything could happen. I mean, the game could go anyway. This is a one-off, unique event, a cup final. It's literally in the lap of the gods.
More confident is Derek Thomas, a Hearts fan who already has Winners 2012 tattooed on his arm.
But at the moment, that'll not be a mistake. It's only Hibs we're playing.
Although prominent Hibbies think any Jambo self-confidence will come unstuck.
I hope so, because I'm going to the match. But I'll be sitting there with my eyes closed, asking to whoever's sitting next to me what's happening. Could we do it? Yes, we can do it. I think we've got momentum. We didn't get cuffed 5-0.
That was Hearts' last result against Celtic, a memory they'll hope to wipe with a victory tomorrow over their biggest rivals. But after avoiding relegation this season, Hibs are a team finding their form just when history has come calling.
Well, some supporters are saving their pennies for tomorrow and having a quiet evening in, preparing for the big day, but others have chosen to ease the pre-match tension by joining fellow fans for a pint. Well, David Marsden's with them now at the Iona Bar at Easter Road. David.
Juliet, the Iona Bar is within the shadow of Easter Road. I don't actually think there's a more hippie pub in the whole of Edinburgh, although I'm told there may be a couple of jambos hiding in amongst this crowd here somewhere. And look at this, they're already starting to celebrate. We've got the spread out just now. There's some drinks coming down. This is a pub that is looking forward to a celebration tomorrow. Just listen to that. One of the guys here, this is a guy, Mark Reddy. We met him earlier on. He's 27 years old. He's been a hippie his entire life. What does tomorrow's match mean for you, mate?
It means everything, mate. It would be the best day of my life if we won, definitely.
What's the score going to be?
Hibs are going to win on penalties. It's going to go down to the 5th penalty. Ian Black's going to step up with his overalls on and his paintbrush. Sky's penalty. Lee Griffiths will step up, slot home the winning penalty, and that'll be it. Hibs will win on penalties.
And how big's that cheer going to be?
The cheer?
Yeah.
Outrageous, mate. It's going to be brilliant, eh?
Now, your family's got a bit of a connection to tomorrow's events. What's happening?
Yes, my dad's actually, he plays the bagpipes and he's piping the trophy into Hampden tomorrow, eh? So, but he's a Rangers fan. So,
so how's that going down in
It's all right, eh? My dad, he's a Rangers fan, eh? It's my uncle's a Hibs fan. He's took me to my first game, so I've been a Hibs fan my whole life. Love them.
Been a tough season for you. Is this a good end to you?
If we win, it'll be a good end. We will win. It'll be a good end to the season. Europe next year as well.
Grand. Guys, do you think we're going to be winning tomorrow? Obviously, I'm just using we there as the royal we. I have absolutely no say in this final. But Juliet, I'll hand that back to you.
David, thank you very much. Their confidence obviously high where you are. Well, of course, spirits are also high on the other side of the capital. Keith Downey's been chatting to Hearts supporters at the pub known as Diggers, just around the corner from Tynecastle.
Yes, thank you. This bar in Edinburgh is just a stone's throw away from Tynecastle. But these guys have travelled a bit further than that to be here today.
Yes, from Adelaide in Australia.
Unbelievable sacrifice to make it here. How much are you looking forward to it?
It's a massively important game. Sure we'll win, 3-1 Hearts. I'm sure Driver will score as well.
And this is your son, who's been to just a couple of Hearts games?
Yep, 6 or 7 games.
And this, you'd imagine, will go down as the biggest anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely. 3-0 Hearts, easy.
Confident stuff. These guys have come from Australia. And yourself?
New Jersey over in America. Yep. I was here 4 years ago or 6 years ago for the 4-0 game against the Hibs. So I think we've got the psychological advantage tomorrow.
OK, and just moving across, so we have Australia, we have New Jersey, and we have Nottingham, which would normally be quite a journey.
Well, it was a 300-mile drive through searing rain yesterday, or driving rain even. We're supremely confident Hearts will win. Hibs have no chance. They're terrible.
OK. And yourself, guys, how far have you travelled?
I've travelled all the way from Carstofan, a good 20 minutes away.
Are you confident that Hearts can do it? And what makes you think that?
Supremely confident. I mean, I've been going to Hearts Hibs games for 25 years, and that time they've beaten us maybe 20 times if they're lucky. 4 or 5-0 tomorrow, easy.
OK, well, I thought that it was gripped by fear, the city. Hearts and Hibs fans really worried more about losing than anything else. These guys don't seem to think that. Back to you.
Keith Downey there. Well, more than 50,000 fans will converge on Hampden tomorrow. Hundreds of buses full of supporters will start leaving the capital early tomorrow morning, turning the M8 into a sea of green and maroon. Well, live now to Hampden and our sports reporter Caroline Henderson. Caroline, over to you.
Thank you, Juliet. I've made the trip across the M8 here to a rainy Hampden because this is where the action will take place. This is where history will be made tomorrow. And of course, the last time the two sides met in a Scottish Cup final, it was 1896 at Logie Green. And back then, of course, Hearts took the spoils 3-1. Who'll take the spoils tomorrow? We'll have to wait and find out. When the fans do arrive tomorrow, we're expecting around 52,000 compared to the 16,000 at Logie Green. They will arrive into the Hampden Bowl. Hearts fans will be over this way. Hibs fans, on the other hand, will be over that way. And we can talk about the favourites as well. Of course, Hearts finished 5th in the SPL this season. They face a prospect of European football next season. Hibs, on the other hand, managed to narrowly avoid relegation. But, Juliet, as we all know, when it comes to the Scottish Cup, Form goes right out the window. I'll be back in sport a little later on when we'll hear from both managers, and we'll be speaking to a certain Mr. Paul Hartley to find out where his loyalties will lie come tomorrow. Juliet.
Look forward to that, Caroline. Thank you for now. Now, in other news, a report says that urgent actions needed to prevent the intensive care unit at one of Scotland's main children's hospitals becoming unsafe. Experts who examined heart surgery services at Glasgow's Royal Hospital for Sick Children raised significant concerns about standards, including poor staffing levels and a lack of leadership. Laura Miller reports.
Around 300 youngsters come here every year for major operations on their hearts. An independent panel examined the unit against standards of care in England. Of the 31 areas assessed, 2/3 were heavily criticised. 19 were rated poor and 1 as inadequate. 6 were deemed acceptable, 3 as good and 2 as excellent. Though it was noted by the panel that the service here is highly regarded by patients and their families, they did raise several major concerns. In the report, they went as far as to say that if critical staffing levels were not addressed, the provision of care could become unsafe. The panel expressed concern that work was not evenly distributed amongst the surgeons, meaning some were not performing the minimum number of procedures required each year. Other criticisms included a lack of leadership and the poor transition between care provided from adolescence into adulthood.
Improvements have been recommended, and Greater Glasgow and Clyde are already in the process of implementing these recommendations. For example, there were some staffing vacancies which are in the process of being filled. But the most important thing for parents listening to this is that York Hill's outcomes for children are as good as they are at any other unit anywhere else in the UK.
The Health Board says an action plan has been put into place to address areas of improvement, but stressed its cardiac services at York Hill are both safe and sustainable. Laura Miller, STV News, Glasgow.
Twin memorials honouring workers who died building the world-famous Forth Bridge have been unveiled on either side of the crossing. The ceremonies marked the end of a 10-year restoration project. As well as commemorating those who died, today's event celebrated the work of thousands who've worked on the bridge over its 129-year history. Shannon Frew has the story.
Thousands braved the elements building and restoring this iconic structure, so the weather conditions were perhaps fitting for today's ceremonies. After 7 years of planning, finally on either side of the crossing now stands a lasting memorial to the 73 men and boys who lost their lives during the bridge's construction.
We believe there was actually boys as young as 10 working on the bridge, and the youngest name on that memorial is only 13. A young boy that was a rivet catcher when he fell to his death. Both sides of the Forth were so involved in building the bridge, you couldn't have a memorial on one side. It wouldn't be practical to have it on the island of Inchgarvie in the middle. So yes, twin memorials, both in sight of each other, both pointing towards each other.
It's regarded as the ultimate symbol of Scottish engineering, and watching on today were many who've spent their lives in its shadow.
It's what I grew up with, the knowledge that my grandfather worked on the bridge, and not only on the building of it, but he continued to work until he retired on the maintenance squad. He was quite happy doing it and delighted to, proud of the fact that he'd worked on the bridge.
And the workers who have finally completed a 10-year restoration of the bridge share that pride.
You couldn't imagine the hardships that they had trying to build this bridge. They didn't have the technology that we have today. Amazing men. They were the original briggers, we're the modern day briggers. So yeah, I think there is a link to the guys, because they're just like us.
It was a commemoration and a celebration. They gathered to remember an extraordinary sacrifice and an extraordinary achievement. Sharon Frew, STV News at the Forth Bridge.
Now for a look at other stories across Scotland. Murder-accused Nat Fraser told police investigating his wife's disappearance that he suspected she was having an affair and had run off with his money. The High Court in Edinburgh heard how officers spent hours interviewing him after Arlene Fraser vanished from her Elgin home 14 years ago. Nat Fraser denies murdering his wife. A woman's died in hospital after falling and hitting her head in a nightclub. Emergency services were called to the Out Club in Dundee's Seagate area in the early hours of yesterday. 46-year-old Elaine Smith was taken to Ninewells Hospital but died of her injuries. 4 fishermen who admitted their part in a major blackfish scam in Peterhead have been hit with confiscation orders totalling more than £1.1 million. Trawler master Ian Buchan was told to pay £1 million for landing undeclared fish. The offences happened between 2002 and 2005. The men are due to be sentenced in July. And pupils from 5 schools in Edinburgh have taken part in an attempt to break the world record for the largest multi-venue dance routine. They joined an estimated 500,000 dancers in 1,800 locations across the UK and Commonwealth to simultaneously perform the routine. There's a warning that Scotland is falling behind the rest of the world in its provision of care for the victims of major trauma. The Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh is calling for specialist trauma centres to be set up across the country. Well, the Scottish Government says it will negotiate with the report's authors about how many centres to create and where they should be located. Here's our senior reporter, Mike Edwards. Well, apologies, we're having some technical problems with that report, but in the meantime, let's take you back to our top story and to Hampden, where we can join Caroline for today's Sports Desk.
Jones takes a shot. It's gone high, and the crowd go wild. Flamingo Land Resort sponsors STV Sports News.
Hello again. It's been 116 years since Hearts and Hibs last faced each other in a Scottish Cup final. I am here at Hampden tonight because this is where history will be made and repeated tomorrow here on the Hampden turf. Now, of course, Hibs have waited 110 years for Scottish Cup glory. Hearts, meanwhile, go in search of lifting the trophy for an 8th time. One man who knows exactly what it feels like to lift a Scottish Cup trophy is Paul Hartley, who joins us now. Paul, as a neutral, I am feeling very nervous about the occasion tomorrow. How are you feeling?
I feel the same, very nervous, looking forward to it. It's got the makings of a cracking game. Hibs will get into the game, the underdogs, but you say anything can happen in a cup final, but I think you've got to fancy Hearts for this. They look the stronger team. You know, they finished the season pretty well, so I'm really looking forward to it.
They do say that form does go out the window with the Scottish Cup, but in terms of the key players, who do you think will feature tomorrow?
I think for Hearts it'll be Scatchell. He's a big game player. He showed in the semi-final. He's already scored in a cup final here against Gretna. For Hibs, you're looking at O'Connor and Griffiths being the key players for Hibs.
We know tonight as well that Craig Beattie will be in the squad tomorrow for Hearts. Whether or not he'll feature is yet to be determined, but how big a loss would he be to Paulo Sergio?
Well, he's not played for the last few weeks, so they maybe keep him for the bench, and bit of an impact player what he did in the semi-final, came on, sort of changed the game for Hearts, and might look at that again tomorrow, so it'll be interesting team selection.
Well, indeed, and Paul, of course, you yourself have been in the tunnel, you yourself have known exactly what it feels like to wait anxiously. How do you, as a player, prepare yourself mentally for the magnitude of this occasion?
I think you've just got to try and keep calm and keep your focus and try to enjoy the occasion, and hopefully you play your best game.
I think the big question, Paul, as well, is a very quick one. Who will win and who will you be backing?
I fancy Hearts, and I think they'll win 2-0.
Excellent. Well, you heard it from the man himself there. Hearts and Hibs preparations couldn't have been any more contrasting, to be honest. Hibs, of course, went to Dublin with Pat Fenlon, while Paulo Sergio opted to keep his men at home and stick to the routine. As far as he's concerned, this is just any other game. Keith Downey has been across the week's build-up.
Easter Road or Tynecastle, where will the Scottish Cup be heading tomorrow night? The biggest Edinburgh derby in history is now just one sleep away.
We should leave this rivalry in the city, but with respect to everybody. Our supporters respecting Hibs supporters and Hibs supporters respecting our supporters. I think that's the way we should live football.
Hearts will win the cup. I think that's what everybody thinks, bar ourselves. So we can't control that. That's people's opinions, and like I said, you have to respect that in the game. So, but we're confident in our own ability, and we know we've got some good players at the moment, and everybody's looking forward to the game.
The Gorgies side have dominated this fixture of late. Hearts are a huge 10 games unbeaten, and this season has seen them win 3 from 3, making it 7 victories in the last 10. Hibs' last triumph came more than 3 years ago in a 1-0 win at Tynecastle. But could this be Hibs' time to step up to the mark and banish 110 years of history? Throughout the decades, this derby match has shown you can expect the unexpected.
Harper lets one go and it's there! What a goal by Harper!
Showing good pace again. The chance is on for Roberts and he must score!
And that's a beautiful goal, what a goal! For De Vries, good touch. Could it be the hat-trick from De Vries? It could, you know.
There's a good chance it'll be my last game for Hibs, so it's something I've dealt with already. And it's been in my head, so no, I'm not worried about that. And what better way than to go out hopefully as a Scottish Cup winning captain.
Have you thought about climbing the steps and lifting the trophy yourself?
No.
Are you lying?
Yeah.
Well, in addition to holding the ultimate bragging rights, a Scottish Cup win would also boost club coffers by around £100,000, not including gate receipts, as the players prepare to do battle on this very pitch. Tomorrow, we've put the managing directors head-to-head too.
At the end of not just one challenging season, but a couple of challenging seasons, it's everything. Putting aside our history of not having won it, I'll get there before you do, since 1902, it does mean an awful lot.
There's a real opportunity for both clubs to showcase the game in the light it should be shown. We're confident that we have a great chance here to show what's best in Scottish football around the globe. I would say so, yes, it is, and that's with all due respect to our predecessors back in 1896, when the teams last met in a Scottish Cup final.
As soon as we beat Aberdeen in the semi-final, we all sat back and thought, watch Hearts get there. This will be what happens. And it came true, and it's fantastic. We couldn't hope for anything more. We survived in the SPL, and that's been of paramount importance. I think getting to the finals a great feat for him, with a lot of lone players and a big changes just 3 or 4 months ago. But to win it is obviously the goal.
This really gives us a chance to forget about all the off-field challenges we do face and concentrate on football.
I think it more just puts the club on the map and helps us attract the calibre player we want at Easter Road.
I'm sure some of the young players that are sitting in the stands on Saturday will actually be featuring next season in the first team.
No.
I don't make predictions other than I'm hopeful that what we will see is a true showcase for not just both teams, not just the city of Edinburgh, but the country of Scotland.
Johnson, over to Smith. He dives. Oh, it must be all over now. Flamingo Land Resort sponsors STV Sports News.
The 1896 match report says hats, sticks and handkerchiefs were thrown wildly in the air when Hearts won back then. Well, the dress code may have changed, but the sentiment will remain the same regardless of who wins tomorrow. Regardless, this is set to be one of the biggest games in Scottish football history, and I, Juliet, for one, can't wait. Back to you.
Caroline, thank you very much indeed. Now here's Sean with that all-important weekend weather forecast.
I've been spinning all morning. Could do with a break. Oh, I think I've just got a second wind.
Hello there. Well, pressure will be rising from the north throughout the weekend, so it's going to be a fair amount of dry and bright weather around, and of course a big match taking place tomorrow. We'll have a look at the forecast for that in just a wee second. Still hang on to a lot of cloud and drizzly outbreaks of rain into tonight. It's been pretty chilly out there today, with temperatures just getting up to around 7 and 8 degrees Celsius, what we'd normally expect during the middle part of February and the end of February. Temperatures looking a wee bit higher for tomorrow. Temperatures tonight still on the chilly side, 3 or 4 degrees Celsius further north, though imagine it could be a wee touch of frost in across rural parts of Perthshire. Temperatures getting a little closer to freezing here. Now for tomorrow, there's going to be a dry day with some bright spells at times, generally a little bit more cloud around during the afternoon. Just a tiny chance of an isolated shower, mainly dry and bright for many parts. There we have the highs tomorrow into double figures, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, takes us into low 50s in Fahrenheit. Of course, our two capital clubs heading over to the west for that big match tomorrow. It is looking dry and bright there as well towards Glasgow. Temperatures up to 12 degrees, so a little bit milder than we'll see here, up to 54 in Fahrenheit. And during the weekend, we've also got the Fife Diamond Garden Festival. It is looking mainly dry and bright for that as well. Temperatures around 10 or 11 degrees. Then on Sunday, dry and bright for many parts once again. And it looks as if it'll turn warmer as we go into next week. Bye-bye.
Make the most of the weather with Scottish Power.
Now, the number of sick and injured personnel returning from the conflict in Afghanistan is continuing to rise. Now, a new scheme is hoping to help returning servicemen and women to recover and rehabilitate by getting back to nature. Fraser Maud has the story.
The North York Moors are a far cry from Afghanistan, but as Major Elspeth de Montes has found out, that is no bad thing. Army Dr Elspeth has been recovering from post-traumatic stress disorder since returning from a tour of duty in the notorious Helmand province.
You know, we were in Sangin in Helmand, and I wasn't just sort of sitting in the back of an ambulance. I was having, you know, I was going out, and I'm not sort of suggesting that other people weren't. I think it's more just that for me that was very much something that I wasn't maybe fully prepared for mentally, seeing all the things I did. And as I say, I'm not sure quite how you can prepare, because we're all human, aren't we? So.
Elspeth is the first to take part in a scheme here in the National Park to help service personnel recover from sickness and injury.
It's not necessarily about access, and it's not necessarily about coping with your disability. It's about getting up here, getting into the park and being part of a team.
The physical threat of serving in such a dangerous theatre is obvious, but there are mental strains too.
It's very upfront, isn't it? If you're in the army, you're in the army. You can't sort of hide at the background. You've got the uniform on. You're under the control of your superiors to an extent. You're having orders. Whereas here it was a kind of bubble in the civilian world where you could recover without necessarily having a lot of the army issues to deal with.
The scheme has worked for Elspeth, who takes up a new posting in the next few weeks. The hope is it can help others too. Fraser Maud in the North York Moors National Park.
Well, I'll be back with the late news at 10:25. Meantime, we'll leave you with some images which capture the moods ahead of the first Scottish Cup final between Hearts and Hibs for over 100 years.
Kilmarnock were underdogs this season. Hearts were underdogs against Celtic in the semi-final. Well, maybe it's the year of the underdog.
To go down as the first captain in 110 years to lift the cup for this fantastic football club would be amazing.
What it means to the Hibs fans, I think for each player it'll probably be the biggest game they'll ever taking part in.
If Hibs do win the cup, all that people have spoke about is the history of it, so we can't change what's gone on previously, but we can change it, you know, come Saturday.
Away up in Gorgie and Tynecastle Park, there's a wee bit for Dean and Will Lane.
We've got a chance now to go into this game at the weekend and forget about all the bad times and just come away with good memories.
And there's nae other team they compare with the Hearts
We are the third biggest club in this country and we should be higher than we are. Hopefully we can save the season by Scottish Cup.
It's very important. It would be right up there with the best things that I've done in my career, and hopefully I can crown this with a winner's medal on the weekend.
It's a game that I want to win, like all the others. No special because it's Hibs.